Getting it home.
Streaming live on the Elevation5280sports.com website. Just click Listen Live at the top of the page and Windows Media Player will play the sports talk you want to hear. Elevation5280sports.com. Careful. It's tough to breathe up here.
Step this way for the Spanish Inquisition. Just a little coffee talk, okay, like butter.
Matt's an okay dude, but he's a dummy.
Michael! Oh, that's funny. Michael!
And now, broadcasting live from the Elevation 5280 Sports Studios in Denver, Colorado, this is The Wheelhouse with Matt Mascarenas and Michael Spillett.
I've said it 2 years ago. I'll say it again, Matt, that Will Barton can and will shoot you out of a game. That was the same criticism that I had of J.R. Smith when he was here, Matt. Yeah, he'll drain 5 3-pointers in a row, but then he'll miss 10 in a row. And you always say, a shooter needs to keep shooting. No, never believed in that sentiment, especially with guys like a J.R. Smith and a Will Barton, guys who will shoot you out of a game.
I agree 100% on this team being a pretender right now. And you mentioned it, Will Barton, there's no semblance of a rotation on this basketball team. There's no bench. The bench is awful. You can't have Mike Malone keeping Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray when he's on the court, when he's playing, or your starters playing 35, 40 plus minutes a game because you can't take a rest. You can't let your bench come in because they're going to give up double-digit leads. They're going to give up double-digit runs.
Can we invite Matt?
All work and no play makes Michael a dull boy.
Now, Matt and Michael are on.
Look at them yo-yos. That's the way you do it.
And welcome into the Wheelhouse here, Elevation5280sports.com. Matt and Mike hanging out with you on this special Sunday edition of the Wheelhouse here on Elevation5280sports.com. Matt, it's a different time for us as we're unable to get on this morning, but here we are with you Sunday afternoon. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I had a nice Sunday morning. I got to get all the honeydews, mow the lawn again because we're in that mode where we're mowing the lawn like twice a week now. So I got that mow in. I got some yard work stuff, some other stuff I had to do. It's taken care of, and yeah, I'm ready to roll now. I watch some basketball. Going to watch some more basketball, then hockey. I'm excited.
Yeah, it is that weird stage where you have to mow at least twice a week, if not every week, because then it just gets too long and shaggy. And not to mention, ours getting dry now. Yep. And so, yeah, it's just that weird, funky summer. It's a June swoon.
The June swoon.
What we're used to. It's what we're used to, right, when the Rockies are playing at least. So we are obviously based in Denver, as you can tell by my apparel. Ready for Game 4 of the Avs and the Golden Knights. We'll get into that here shortly. Also, coming up on Fire and Ice, the Julio Jones watch is over, Matt. That took way quicker than, I don't know, at least I expected. Did it go as fast as you expected? I was wondering if it was going to be sooner than later.
Maybe like I guess I'm not going to say it came just, I wasn't expecting it, but I didn't know. I thought there would be a couple more suitors. I thought there'd be a couple more teams involved, but it was the Titans. Like it feels like it was the Titans all the way. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. Get that out of the way.
Yeah. And we have been in talks with Frank once again from the Fourth Line Hockey Podcast. Hopefully he'll have enough time to join us today. If not, maybe we'll capture an interview with him tomorrow, but hopefully he will get back to us on that, as there's a lot of hockey talk going on. Obviously, the NBA playoffs, we are now in round 2, and we'll get into some of that. Fire Ice, we'll go over our predictions. Matt, from round 1, you got a lot more right than I did, so we'll get into that. And also, we'll throw out some hockey playoff predictions as well, as one series is almost over. A couple of the other ones are still in play, as we mentioned, so we'll get into that as well. Matt, what's on the MMA front? We obviously have the weigh-in of Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather. Apparently, Paul is like 40 pounds heavier and 2 weight classes above Floyd Mayweather. What does that mean for this fight coming up here shortly?
Oh, that was the craziest thing about this whole deal. And I'm like, I'm not interested in it, but I'm probably going to watch it. I'm not going to pay for it. I mean, yes, I am. I mean, no, I'm not. Wink, wink. But I want to see it just because there's part of me that wants to see if Floyd Mayweather breaks Logan Paul's nose, and that's kind of where we're at. And the whole deal was if he came in, he had to weigh under 190 pounds, and that dude's like 6'4", and I would say he walks around at 200 pounds. And for him to come in that under that weight, it makes me wonder if that's going to affect him at all. Does he used to cutting weight? Because these guys, they say they're fighters, they say they're boxers, but they really don't go through that whole process. So I'm curious to see if that has any play into it. So the whole rules on it are there's no winners, there's no scoring, there's knockouts, but there's knockouts, but it's an all around exhibition. So it's going to be a circus. I mean, I don't. You want to look at it and see how big this guy is. I don't know if you've seen the face-offs, but he towers over Floyd, but it's just going to give an example of a guy that one of the best boxers, probably arguably the best boxer of all time, can do to somebody that's bigger, stronger, and in that sense, I don't think he's faster. Floyd's so fast, I don't think he's faster, but he's bigger and he's stronger. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's hard to really get excited about it, but we'll see what happens. But last night, real quick, we had Jorginho Rosenstruik taking on Siaki, and that was a heavyweight. I don't know if it was a showdown, but it was a get right fight kind of for Rosenstruik, and it really catapults him in that, in my opinion, it didn't need to catapult him, but in a lot of people's eyes, it did, into that heavyweight picture where you have Derek Lewis, Ngannou, and then you also have John Jones, who says he might not fight till 2022. So with that win last night, Rosenstruik puts himself in that category, and then we'll see what happens, what we get for that heavyweight showdown, or what we get in that heavyweight mindset going forward. But yeah, the biggest thing that's on deck right now is this Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather fight. That's kind of ridiculous, but it is what it is.
Now, is this the same guy who was a YouTube influencer?
Yeah.
So how did he go from?
And it's Jake Paul, they're brothers. So both of them are.
Now, how did he go from a YouTube influencer to that dude right there? I mean, and if you're watching on Twitch or Facebook Live, once again, you can do either or. I mean, what?
He's got time. He's got time to do that. He's got time to invest in a trainer. He's got time to go to these boxing gyms and to put that work in. I mean, hats off to him, man. I wouldn't mind, being a YouTuber and looking like that. I mean, sure, my wife would love it, but I just, they're kids that they work hard and they are very good at what they do, and that's influencing and YouTube, making content. They're content creators. They're really good at it, and you got to take your hats off to them in that sense. But I just don't think they're boxers. I don't think they're fighters. They're just, it's like that old LA kickboxing gym. Like that's where they go and they get in shape, and then here they are.
So I guess my question is now, with the fight still weeks away, who are you taking in that fight? You said you might not watch it, but you might not. Who are you taking in that fight?
The Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley one?
Well, that one and the Mayweather Logan Paul one.
So that one's tonight, actually. That fight's today. And I think it's hard for me not to go with Floyd. And I'm going to go with Floyd. And like I said, I want to see if he breaks his nose. That's the whole thing right now, is I want to see if he breaks his nose. And I think that's what all the fight fans, I don't know if you want to call them fight purists, but the guys there, or the people, the folks that really watch fighting and watch fights, they're hoping that happens too. They do not want to see, and he even came out, Logan Paul, and basically came out with this fight, and his mindset was, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. If I lose, it's going to be, if I lose, it's not a big deal because I lost to the greatest boxer of all time. And if I win, then I win. I just beat the greatest boxer of all time. So he's already set himself up all kind of like LeBron does and sets himself up to fail or to that it's okay if I lose or if I fail. But that's what I said. I'm hoping that Floyd hurts this guy enough to where he knocks it off, because that's all we're waiting for. We're just hoping for one of these guys to mess with the wrong dude to get. I mean, I don't want to like vote for anybody to get hurt, even though I just said I want to see him to break his nose. But it's like you got to learn a lesson, and these dudes haven't learned a lesson. You know, I mean, a lot of us go whether they're playing on the basketball court, baseball, football field, baseball, whatever it is. We kind of learn our lessons when we try to go against a dude or somebody that's bigger and better or just better than us, and then we get shown up. I don't think these guys have had that happen to him yet. So this is an example of what Floyd could do, and I hope he does. I hope he does that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And also tonight, Matt, who did you have in tonight's fight? Either the brother or Woodley?
I'm going to go with Woodley when that one gets closer. I like that one. I like Woodley in that one. And there's some money that's getting thrown around about that fight too. So that's going to be very, very interesting. But that's what they're doing. They're creating content. They're creating good fights that you want to tune in to see them lose. And that's what they're creating. People are going to spend 30, 40, 50 bucks, whatever it is, to see these guys get their butts kicked. And they're making money off of, man. Like I said, tip your hat to them. Tip your hat to them.
Well, there you go. Speaking of YouTube creators, we're on YouTube as well. Not sure if we'll turn out like Logan Paul did, but you can subscribe to the channel there, Elevation 5280 Sports. Like us on Facebook, Elevation 5280 Sports, and on Twitch, twitch.tv/5280 Radio, and also on Twitter at 5280 Sports Radio. We're going to take our first time out. On the other side, Fire and Ice. You don't want to miss that coming up right here on Elevation5280sports.com.
Interact with Elevation 5280 Sports on social media. Like our Facebook page.
People want to go on the internet and check out their friends, so why not build a website that offers that?
Follow us on Twitter at 5280 Sports Radio.
What the heck is a Twitter?
Also follow us on Twitch at Elevation 5280 Radio to watch the Stalking Dead live.
Little pig, let me in.
And as always, check us out online at elevation5280sports.com. Careful. It's tough to breathe up here.
Hey, Michael Spillane here for the Flash Hauler Driving app, a convenient app for on-demand furniture moving, vehicle towing, and courier service. If you like being out on the road, not having people breathing down your neck, pressuring you to get stuff done by deadlines and time limits, join our fleet on the Flash Hauler Driving app. Earn money by driving your pickup or van, be your own boss, making your own schedule, not to mention the feeling of helping truckless people getting their furniture moved to wherever they need. If vehicle towing is more in your arena, we provide that service as well. And if you don't have a truck or a van, no worries. The app enables you to do courier gigs. It's an easy process to sign up and get approved to be part of the Flash Hauler Hero team. Be proud of what you do while you do it at your convenience. So what are you waiting for? Grab your phone, download and install the Flash Hauler, that's FLASHOLR Driver app, or visit our website, HOLR-apps.com. Getting it hauled in a flash.
Ranger station.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting in the forest. 1 second, I'm having a smoke. Next thing I know, I'm face to face with Smokey Bear. Wow. And he told me it only takes one spark to start a wildfire.
Did you know 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans?
I had no idea.
That's why Smokey's famous and you're not. Get your Smokey on. If you see someone in danger of starting a wildfire, step in and make a difference. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Elevation5280sports.com is more than just a streaming radio station.
Hi, y'all.
Rule the water cooler conversation by keeping up to date with scores and stats from your favorite team.
Somebody got a shot. Score! Nathan McKinnon from the high slot on a perfect feed from Miko Rantanen.
Get to know your favorite hosts. Access show lineups and past shows in the audio vault. And in-depth analysis from our sports experts and bloggers. Elevation5280sports.com. Careful. It's tough to breathe up here. This segment on Elevation 5280 Sports is brought to you by the Flash Hauler Driver app, helping people move in a flash. It's now time for Fire.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. On fire. I'm the only one of burning desire. Let me stand next to your fire.
And Ice.
Ice Cube, baby.
You're as cold as ice.
Ice, baby.
welcome back into the Wheelhouse here, Elevation5280sports.com. Matt and Mike hanging out with you on this Sunday afternoon, Game 4. Avs Knights coming your way tonight, as well as that Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley fight, as Matt will be very torn on which to watch. As we'll get into playoff and NBA playoff matchup predictions coming up here shortly, as we'll get into fire and ice. A lot going down, a big NFL trade, Matt, that honestly has been kind of quiet on the Western Front here today, and we'll get into that. But starting off with the ice list, Matt, I'll choose today, I guess, since I went right into it. And we kind of touched on it there at the top of the show, Matt, Logan Paul, and Floyd. Why did you choose to put this in the ice list?
Just because of how they're like that was a great fight last night. Now I understand that it's not going to draw in because you're not going to, the casual person's not going to want to come in and watch Jardizo Rosenstruck take on some guy that they can't pronounce their name. So I understand that, but the fight, the meaning behind the fight and what these guys are going for is a hell of a lot more than what this is. This is just money. This is about money grab. It's about Floyd Mayweather making more money, and it's about Logan Paul making more money. And I understand. I've said it before earlier. Tip my hat off to those guys for doing it. They're doing it. They're making money, and tip my hat off in that sense. But as far as when it comes to fighting, as far as when it comes to and then they have the nerve, Jake Paul and Logan Paul will come out and they're fighting for fighters, like they're fighting to get the pay structure better for MMA fighters, to get the pay structure better for boxers. This is how you do it. This is what you do. I'm making money. They're equating to how much money and how much they're bringing in through pay-per-view numbers and how much they're bringing in through the gate. We don't know what the gate's going to be like because we really haven't seen a big gate. So I don't know if that's going to be what that's going to look like, but they're equating as much money as they're making to being actual boxers, to being actual fighters that draw, to being prize fighters. They're calling themselves prize fighters. And yeah, okay, you can say that the prize fighter mentality or the aspect of prize fighting is to bring in money. Okay, I understand that. But what you're doing is you're hurting these guys that are sleeping in gyms, that are eating on a hot plate, that are doing all these sacrifices and everything just to be a competitive boxer and to make a living in the sport. And these guys come out and they go and they spar and they box in a gym for, I don't know how they train, or they do obviously train, but they come out and they do this and then they make this much money. And for me, it's not helping the sport. A lot of people are saying, yeah, this is great for the sport. It's not great for the sport. It's hurting the sport. And it's a sport that I enjoy to watch, and a sport that I really like talking about. And I'm not a purist, and I know that there's a lot of dirty stuff in boxing. There's different belts, the IW this, the IBF this, the WW this. There's so many different belts, so many different promotions that are out there. I understand all the politics that are involved, but there's guys that are trying to come up and claw and scratch and that are 10 times better than these guys, and these guys are the ones getting the opportunity. So it just sucks that's the way it is. And I mean, we'll see what happens from there. But like I said, I hope one of these guys learns their lesson sooner than later.
All right, there you go. And number 2 on the ice list, Matt, we were going to bring this up last week, didn't get a show on, and now it's been twice since your homie has done this, and the backlash on top of the backlash, the hate for LeBron James has actually, it's being noticed now more since the Lakers were bounced in 6 games. And twice in that series against Phoenix, Matt, he has walked off the court twice with just a few minutes left. One, I think it was Game 4, when Phoenix won by 20 points, and he was gone. I mean, he was nowhere to be seen. And then, of course, Game 6, Lakers were sort of in it and then kind of faded off. And then he walks off the court with 2 minutes left. Fast forward a couple of minutes, he's doing his post-game press conference saying he doesn't want to play in the Olympics, but rather focusing on the Goon Squad or the Monstars for Space Jam 2, which I still have not watched. But man, the hate for LeBron James is strong, and you can I don't want to speak for you, but you could throw me into that category. But now other people are noticing it. There's quotes from different players around the sports world saying the hate for LeBron James is like mesmerizing, mind-numbing, mind-blowing, because they don't understand it. And one of these guys on Facebook, I posted, well, maybe if he was a good teammate, he wouldn't have walked out. Did you ever see? And of course, here comes a comparison. Did you ever see Kobe or MJ walk off the court early? And if you watched The Last Dance, you knew Michael Jordan did not walk off the court early, and he was pissed when Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons did in that one playoff series. So what do you make of LeBron walking off the court without shaking hands? I mean, he should be out there with the rest of his teammates soaking in the defeat you lost, bro. I mean,
right.
Do you not think Chris Paul was waiting to shake your hand? Veteran waiting for veteran?
Right. And that it's the optics of it. It's the perception of it all. And I mean, I when I see things like that from a guy that everything that he's been about, it's all about him. It's all about LeBron James. And there are examples of him paying it forward and doing all that stuff. And you can research those and Google those and you'll find those. There are out there. And then even after the game, you saw him giving the jersey. They were swapping jerseys with Devin Booker and stuff like that. And then they took the IG post last year when he was winning. Okay. And I go back to last season when he was winning. Every time they walked, he was stayed on the court, shook hands, and whispered into these young guys' ears, Jamal Murray, Jokic, guys like that. And he was getting into or Jimmy Butler, he's not a young guy, but he was there was all that situation. You saw that. And this year, 2 times, like you mentioned, he gets up, walks off. That is saying, I don't need to be here. I am not a part of this. I am not a part of what y'all are doing. Y'all are losing. I'm not a part of that. I'm not a part of losing. I'm getting up and I'm leaving because I'm not a part of this. You guys lost. You guys are losers. I'm leaving. That's what it looks like on the outside. And the LeBron haters, which I'm in that class. I'm more of a LeBron's not my GOAT category. And when he does something cool, I'll put him over. But when he does stuff like this, I'm going to bury him because it's not what you think of when you look at a guy. And then I hear like the apologist for LeBron James saying, oh, he's not used to losing in the first round. He's not used to do this stuff. He doesn't know what to do. Are you freaking kidding me? You're not telling me he doesn't know the history of basketball. He doesn't know the history of he's a basketball lover. I thought he was anyway. He doesn't know the history of all these guys. Doesn't know how these things work. At the end of a series, you shake hands. At the end of a hockey series, everybody lines up and they go through the line just like you do when you're kids. We're not saying do that. And then there's the apologists are saying, oh, Chris Paul knows how LeBron James feel about each other. They don't need to go shake hands. This player knows how they feel about each other. They know LeBron James has love for them. They know this and that. Well, what does it matter if you just sit on the bench, clap your teammates up, say, hey, it's whatever, do whatever you do as a good teammate, then go dap them up. Do it for the cameras. I mean, even if you say there's a lot of things LeBron does for the cameras, why can't this be one of those situations? So yeah, it rubbed me the wrong way. I just don't buy that other aspect of it that they know what they're doing and that they know each other. To Chris Paul and LeBron James, that would have been a great moment, man. Go embrace each other at the end of the game. Chris Paul's moving on to the second round. Why can't you be happy for your fellow colleague, NBA player, and dap him up and congratulate, wish him luck, whether you did it behind the scenes in the locker room or not? Go do it for us. Go do it for us on the camera. I mean, you do all kinds of other things for us.
Well, unless he doesn't care that he walked off the court, like he should know cameras are always on him. And he knows like he's going to get backlash for walking off the court early. I mean, it's just that simple. So when you're LeBron James and you don't care and you want to go, play the Monstars, then that's cool. But, at the same time, like you mentioned, he says he has a certain respect for the game. That's not respect. That's not respecting your. And then, of course, they release a picture of him with a signed jersey with Devin Booker and all that. That's cool and everything. Like, I don't know if the protocols are still in place where you can't exchange jerseys on the court anymore, but that would have been a cool thing too to do it on the court. So I don't know why he had to wait until the locker room to go and do that. Speaking of which, you brought up LeBron's career playoff first round exits, Matt. In his 18-year career, only one time has he been bounced in the first round. He's now 14-1 in first round series matchups, which is actually pretty outstanding, Matt. 15 years, he's been in the playoffs 15 of his 18 years, and that is pretty remarkable. So I guess congrats to him. And another stat interesting too, Matt, this will be the first year since 1998 that the NBA Finals will not feature the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Lakers, and there was one more, and I completely spaced. Oh, the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, San Antonio Spurs.
That is absolutely since 98? Are you kidding me? And the first time And the first time since 2003 that the finals will not feature LeBron or Steph.
Right.
Or 2013, excuse me.
Right. And that's what and it's great because everybody talks about parity. You got to have parity, and the NBA has not really, because that's a stat that proves it right there. And you look at too, like so all of those. So let's see if I could do math real quick. So 12 of those years were in the Eastern Conference, and the 2 years or 3 years LeBron James, because he was with the Lakers that first year, and they didn't even make the playoffs, did they? Or did they get bounced? No, they didn't even make it because he was injured.
Yeah, they did not make it. So that was one of his only 3 times not making it his first year in LA.
And then you think about, so LeBron's in the Western Conference. 2 out of the 3 years he's in the Western Conference, one of them he gets bounced in the first round. The next year, the first year he doesn't even make it, but the one year he won the championship. So think about the Western Conference versus the Eastern Conference, because there's still that argument, that discussion there too, where was the Eastern Conference just way too easy for LeBron James? Because now he can barely even navigate himself through the Western Conference now.
Yeah, and that could be a question up for debate as well. And another stat here, Matt, only one team from the conference finals in both leagues are still in it, and that would be your Denver Nuggets, the only team who was in a conference final last season. Obviously, the Lakers, Heat, and the Boston Celtics have all been bounced in the first round this season. We'll get into more NBA playoffs coming up here very quickly. The last thing on the ice list we have, Matt, is NBA coaches. I mean, there's going to be one of the. It's not Black Monday like in the NFL, because obviously the Super Bowl is played on a Sunday, so you don't have that Black Monday to kind of see how many coaches are going to get fired. But Terry Stott's already out in Portland. They are pulling the old Russell Wilson thing, saying he's going to have a lot of say in that. Is Damian Lillard a lot to say about who's the next head coach? He wanted Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd has since withdrew his name from consideration. So I even heard Chauncey Billups, the king of Park Hill, his name being tied. That'd be cool to see him get a coaching job in the NBA. Although I'm not really a fan of former players being head coaches. I mean, none of them have really succeeded. I think Jason Kidd's probably a pretty good assistant with the Lakers. You see other guys around the league, Steve Nash. It's funny how Steve Nash is the head coach of Brooklyn, and all his assistants were former head coaches. I guess that's how it works out there. I totally forgot, Matt, that Mike D'Antoni was sitting on the bench in Brooklyn. But is it really Steve Nash, or is it really the big three for Brooklyn who's making that team operate and look good? So, and then Orlando gets rid of, and I totally spaced on his name, is Clifford. Steve Clifford, Matt, is bounced out in Orlando, which you kind of were like, Orlando, they haven't made much noise since maybe Dwight Howard was there. Right. I don't know when the last time Orlando Magic were relevant. But anyway, Matt, we have a couple coaches now free, and we have a couple of coaching vacancies now in the NBA.
Yeah, and you kind of seen the writing on the wall with Terry Stotts with the whole can't get out of the first round. He was there like 9 years, couldn't get out of the first round for 8 of those years, or the 1 year he got out. There was that stat there. There was an issue with all that, and just a lack of adjustments too. I don't know if it was a lack of adjustments or it's just the options you had in this series alone. And you can go back and look at some other series in the past too. And there was even something I was reading that there was a Clippers game this year that some of the players were given crap to Dame because they couldn't defend. His coach, they kept telling him, your coach can't figure out our defense, or they can't, because they were double trapping Dame when he would come off a certain area, and they were giving him crap about that. So the lack of adjustments there, it was just time for a change. And Orlando, they're like a team that's they made all those trades. They almost essentially cleaned house. They got rid of everybody essentially. And, they're looking like they're going to be kind of moving up. So they're going to want somebody that's going to build that program or that team, I should say. And then also too, don't forget about the Boston Celtics, that whole issue that they had with Brad Stevens and Ainge stepping down, and Stevens going up into a higher role. So they're going to be looking for a head coach. That was interesting too, as well. And I mean, who do you think you mentioned Jason Kidd pulled his name out of that Portland hat? Cause I think I've heard things about they might extend Frank Vogel, but they might fire him. I don't know. I mean, they might mutually agree. You know how they mutually agree to part ways. They might do that. because Jeannie Buss wants Jason Kidd there, but Jason Kidd has that checkered kind of whatever past is in his past. That's kind of hard to really just give him the job outright. So that might be reason why Jason Kidd backed out of that whole deal. Chauncey Billups you mentioned, and then you got Hammond from where is she at? I think is she in Philly or is she in San Antonio still? I can't remember.
I think she's still Pop's assistant.
You got her. What a great opportunity! I mean, you go get her job in Orlando, Boston. They were talking about. So there's a lot of coaches out there. I just hope we don't get a retread. You know, I want to see a new coach. I want to see, even if it is Chauncey Billups, you know, like you mentioned, D'Antoni. You know, I'm watching that game and D'Antoni's barking out, and Steve Nash is just kind of sitting there. You know, he's Canadian, he's real nice, he's just kind of laid back, and I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, who's running this team? You know, so I hope we don't get a retread coach. You know, people are talking about Van Gundy, get him up there. I don't want to see that again. Let's see if some of these new younger faces that are out there, and younger in coaching, I should say, not younger in age, but let's see if we can give these people an opportunity. That would be nice.
Yeah, I really don't think Steve Nash is. I don't want to say a good head coach, but at least he's kind of kept the egos at bay. I want to say, although Kyrie Irving takes time off when he wants to. I guess I don't know. I haven't really watched too much Brooklyn besides when they're on national TV, so you don't really get the grasp of what's kind of going on until, you know, the playoffs or national TV games or something like that. So we'll see how they fare. We have big news coming out of Game 2 tomorrow night for Brooklyn, and we'll get into our fire lists on the other side right here on the Wheelhouse Elevation 5280sports.com.
NFL Analysis Network is your one-stop source for coverage of all 32 teams. We provide in-depth analysis, news, and opinions about all things football. Since you're online anyway, check out NFLanalysis.net, Elevation 5280 Sports' exclusive new teammate on the gridiron.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
You remember that ball game we went to a couple years ago?
Sure.
And how you didn't have enough cash for 2 hot dogs, so you walked with me on your shoulders until we found an ATM? And then when we got back to our seats, we never saw the hot dog guy again.
Well, I don't remember all that.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
You never know which moments will be the ones they'll remember forever. So take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 1-877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey, Michael Spillane here for Anchor.fm, Elevation 5280's new podcasting hosting platform. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. Number one, it's free. You can't beat that. Next, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. You can then make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Once again, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Here in Colorado, we wear shorts in warm weather and in 5 feet of snow. Woo! We also talk sports year-round. Join Matt Mascarenas every Monday evening at 6 Mountain for your sports shorts.
But it means a hell of a lot to a football team with a brand new head coach who is a brand new head coach in his own right. A veteran coach, but brand new head coach who almost didn't even make the football game. Vic Fangio, the new coach of the Denver Broncos, almost didn't even make his first NFL coaching debut. He had kidney stone. He was there standing on the sidelines coaching football.
Once again, join Matt Mascarenas for Sports Shorts every Monday evening at 6 Mountain, only on Elevation5280sports.com. Elevating Internet Sports Radio. This segment on Elevation 5280 Sports is brought to you by the NFL Analysis Network, your one-stop source for all 32 teams.
And welcome back into the Wheelhouse here at Elevation 5280sports.com. Matt and Mike hanging out with you on this Sunday afternoon. About a half hour left with you as we left you in the middle of our fire and ice list. We just finished the ice list. Once again, follow us everywhere that you have social media. You can follow Matt at M_Matt32 on Twitter. Follow me at Michael Stone. Follow the station at 5280 Sports Radio. You can follow We'll subscribe on YouTube as well, Elevation 5280 Sports. You can do that on twitch.tv/5280 radio and on the old TikTok, Matt. Speaking of influencing, influenza, I don't know. Just follow us on TikTok as well at Elevation 5280 Radio, as I just posted a new video on there as well. We got a picture text message if you're watching it on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook Live of this is what we got when LeBron walked off the court, Matt. So that's what it
Carl's
was.
pissed. Carl's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, and LeBron and his former teammates still can't see what's going on. So, and of course, the old, Michael Jordan there. All right, we are moving on to our fire list, Matt. And as we kick things off for the fire, this is great news and grand news, as the Canadian border between the U.S. and obviously Canada has reopened, as Canada gave it the official go. Winnipeg, actually, the Winnipeg Jets, Matt, were the first team to allow fans, just like the Avs did here in Denver, just like other teams around the league did. They allowed the first responders to get to go to a game first, and then they're going to open it up to general public very, very slowly. Because if you've watched any of the Canadian Bowl, because Canadian teams played each other all year round, which was probably extremely exhausting for them, but they still had the logo like the bubble did last year in Edmonton, Montreal, and all that. So we will have cross paths, because I found out, Matt, that the winner of Winnipeg, Montreal will play the winner of Colorado, Vegas. So they had to figure something out. So wow. I'm glad that the border has finally reopened for the next round and it'll be the conference. I don't know how they're going to name it, because the only close team to the Western Conference is Winnipeg. So, but I'm glad they opened the border.
Right. I saw that and I was like, oh boy, this is what we've kind of been, because we were kind of just sitting here waiting to see if these guys win, if they win, what does it matter? Are we just going to have the North American Cup or the American Cup and the Canada Cup and all so great news to see that. So we finally we know where this is all going to end up. We know what the Avs need to do if they want to, who they're going to be playing if they beat the Knights. So yeah, it's great news for hockey world, because we got a direction. We know where we're going to end up.
So I guess my question is, now that the border is open, are you going to have the Toronto Blue Jays no longer playing in Buffalo? I mean, are you going to have we still have a long time now for the next NBA season, but maybe the Raptors will finally get to move back to Toronto instead of playing in Tampa Bay of all places. So, I mean, I know the Blue Jays have a pretty good following in Buffalo, because it's not too far across the border from where they play. And it's the Blue Jays minor league stadium anyway. So they kind of have ties there anyway. But do you think that now baseball, even though there's only one Canadian team left,
right,
do you think that's going to be reopened?
I was just going to ask the same thing. I was just going to say the same thing, because I'm wondering if this is a special exception for the NHL playoffs. I don't know if it's going to be wide open, because the article I read was that they were going to have special circumstances and heightened safety and all that stuff, and they weren't going to have to be quarantined, but there were still going to be some high safety stuff. So I'm wondering if it's just for the NHL and the hockey, so they can control it a little bit more when you do go over across and you have to play over there. So that's I guess that's what's next to see. The article I read, it was just for the NHL, but that would be interesting to know if they're going to open it up for the Blue Jays as well.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Moving on to number 2 on the fire list, Matt. Well, this is fire for us, at least. Good news. And again, people always question the Lakers and LeBron. Hey, if you're born or from Denver, or you live here a long time, you are raised to really not like the Lakers. Now, I respected Kobe. I wasn't really a fan of him, but I at least respected him. He was a good leader. He played like the MJ fierce competitorship. I don't necessarily know if he makes everyone good around him, like MJ did. I mean, I think that's still up in the air for LeBron and Kobe, but at least they had the respect.
Right.
At least the Kobe Lakers, at least that era of Lakerness, had the respect of, I think, Denver fans. But now that LeBron's there, just the antics and the acting and the whining and the complaining. I mean, yeah, Jokic complains too. Everyone throws up their arms after a whistle. And let's face it, the officiating has been absolutely terrible the last couple of years. I mean, but everyone says, well, Jokic complains too. Yeah, but he's from Europe. I mean, whatever. I mean, the guys now would not be able to make it in the 90s NBA. Let's just face it, they're all too soft for that. But anyway, Lakers losing 6-match to Phoenix. We'll locally here see Denver and Phoenix tomorrow night. We'll get into that here shortly, the second round playoff matchups. But again, 14-1 in LeBron's career, now losing in the first round. This Lakers team, Matt, is going to look absolutely different. I'll pull up the list while you're talking, but the amount of free agents that they will have heading into this offseason is absolutely, I think honestly, LeBron and AD are the only ones who have contracts beyond this season.
Right. And that's what the thing with this, and I think not only for us here in Denver, but if you look at like the Portlands, the Oklahoma Cities, the Utah Jazz, the Phoenix, even the San Antonio, but San Antonio is different because they've won championships because they got the pedigree. They got Pop there. They got Duncan, Robinson, Parker, Ginobili. They got all that history there. But for the small mid-market teams that nobody wants to see in the playoffs, that the biggest thing over last week was oh man, couldn't we y'all had to start I've seen so many forms and versions of this statement that you had to start the season so soon, and this is what happens. You didn't get these guys any rest, and this is what happens. Or that, how's the NBA going to like not having the Lakers in the playoffs, the Lakers in the finals? So we're really going to, I've seen people saying that we're really going to enjoy a Utah versus Milwaukee series or Utah Brooklyn series or something like that. And that's this losing. And I'm even rooting for the Mavericks to beat the Clippers because who are playing right now, because there would be no LA teams in the second round or moving on, or potentially could be in the finals. And that's for like all the little guys, the guys that nobody wants to go play. When I saw Jason Kidd say, "Hey, I it would be a great place but not for somebody else, not for me," I was like, "Come on, dude! It's a head coaching job, man, and you're gonna go out and say that, and it's because it's Portland. You're gonna have an opportunity to go coach one of the best players in the NBA, a dude I mean, goodness gracious, if they get their stuff together in Portland with Damian Lillard there, oh my gosh, they still scare me. That team still scares me, but." This is for all of us little guys, all of us teams that nobody cares, nobody wants to see in the playoffs, nobody wants to see in the finals. This is for us to see, and it's also flies in the face of that you can just turn it on in the playoffs. That you could just kind of not even play the whole entire season, piss on ticket sales, piss on this, but all this stuff you can just don't even worry about. I'll show up for the playoffs, and this also throws caution at that. And then you got something we're probably gonna talk about later. James Harden, he's hurt. His thighs hurt, and that might affect the series going forward. Maybe, even though it looked like Brooklyn kind of dominated that game even without Harden, but still, it's throwing all that stuff into the wrenches into all these plans of these players doing that, and that's why it was on the fire list for me. Not only because we hate the Lakers, right, but it was just for that too, to see a team like that tried to do all that stuff not make it, because it's not that easy anymore.
Right, and here is the list of those free agents I was talking about, Matt. The unrestricted free agents is Dennis Schroeder, and Magic Johnson's not a fan of him, said he's not a Laker. Don't know if you saw that tweet.
Yep.
Wesley Matthews, who barely got any minutes in the playoffs, Alex Caruso, Jared Dudley, Markieff Morris, Andre Drummond, and Ben McLemore. Andre Drummond's played so terribly, Matt, that they benched him and started Marc Gasol in his place. And Marc Gasol, by the way, still has a contract for next season either. He's not on this list. Giannis's brother, Kostas, is a restricted free agent. Devontae Cook and THT, Taylor Horton Tucker, also on that restricted free agent list. And who has a team option is Montrezl Harrell, who had also a very cryptic tweet or Instagram post or something like that. So those guys are on the list. Also, I don't know, a lot of these fans, a lot of these people are superimposing Steph Curry and Damian Lillard in Lakers uniforms for next season. Honestly, if I was Damian Lillard, I wouldn't even blame him if he asked for a trade at this point.
Right. And I agree with you. And then that's kind of what people were talking about, that their teams were already calling about Damian Lillard, or calling Portland to see if he's available. But now he's got input into the next head coach. I think he wants to win there. I think he wants to build or try another shot, get another go there. I don't think he wants to leave, but I don't blame him. I'm right there with you, man. I don't blame him. I don't think he goes to the Lakers, though. I don't think he does stuff like that. I don't think Steph Curry does that, because Steph Curry just has to wait for Klay Thompson to come back. He doesn't have to go down the road to get better. And I mean, and also we could throw this question too in there. Are the Lakers done? Like, was this it? Was this the last hurrah? Or was last year's the bubble championship? Was that the only one they're going to get? Can you trust Anthony Davis? Can LeBron James trust this guy anymore? You mentioned guys like the THT or Taylor Horton Tucker. He was somebody that was talked about as being untouchable, that you can't trade him. Kyle Kuzma. Oh my God. You talk about Andre Drummond being horrible. Kyle Kuzma, that dude is horrible. My goodness. I mean, I can't even begin to say how many people was all on that dude's train, and he's nothing. They could have traded him away and got a decent veteran point guard, even somebody that's even better than that. But I'm just looking at this Lakers team as a whole, and I don't know. There's nothing there. And who are you going to get to come here? Like who else is going to come and play with these after they're seeing what you got? An old LeBron James, and then you got what do they call him? What did Charles Barkley call him? Street Clothes Davis or something like that.
Or Erna, I don't know Erna, but I mean
that's pretty good.
So yeah, I mean Kyle Kuzma not on that free agent list as well, so he obviously has a contract for next season at least, unless he gets traded or something drastic happens. Same with Marc Gasol. You could see the age wearing on him as well. Yeah, just a lot of these guys are. It's going to be a different Lakers team to say the least. You'll have LeBron and AD, Dennis Schroeder. I don't think. I honestly agree with Magic Johnson that he did not seem like he fit the Lakers' way. I guess you could say. Remember, he went from 0 points, in game 4 or 5, and he stepped up the next game and then had another down game in game 6, the elimination game. So, yeah, it's going to be a very different Lakers team coming up next season.
And he even and Schroeder even declined an option. I think it was for $40 million.
I thought it was
like earlier this year,
like 80 something million.
Was it 80 something? Yeah, he declined that because he thought he was worth 100 million. Now he's not even going to get that. And he even, if you follow this cryptic tweet stuff, like you mentioned Montrezl Harrell, who that was surprised that this is what's getting Frank Vogel in some hot water, because you left that dude just sitting on the bench. Like he didn't even, you can't throw him in for a spark plug. He's like Kenneth Faried. Remember how Kenneth Faried was for us? That's how that dude is. You throw him in and he's got some extent, but he was a sixth man of the year. So it was just crazy in that you couldn't get that guy involved. So that's why Frank Vogel's getting some heat for that. But yeah, Schroeder, he took off his Lakers point guard from his social media account. So yeah, it's going to be a totally different Laker team. And you don't have the same LeBron. And then you got to hurt Anthony Davis. He's been hurt his entire career. He's been hurt. So what can you expect from that dude? So I think the Lakers are done. I don't think they get another sniff. So
their window is closed, huh?
I think so. And did you see Pat Riley's even saying, "Hey, LeBron, if you want to come back to Miami, just give me a call." So they're talking about LeBron maybe leaving.
I did see that. And I think him and Jimmy Butler kind of play the same position, although positions in basketball have kind of been skewed now because of it's become more of a 3-point shooting league. I mean, do you still have Jimmy Butler on that team if you somehow bring back LeBron?
That's curious. You would almost see it
Jimmy Butler's like that. Jimmy Butler's like 6 to 8 years younger as well.
Right.
Without any injury history either.
Right. I like Jimmy Butler better. I would rather have Jimmy Butler than LeBron James, but if LeBron James wants to be a facilitator, I mean, I'm sure he can go and become some.
Is that crazy where we're at now? Is LeBron going to have to give up that ego and be a? I don't even know who you compare him to with someone in their great prime being a facilitator nowadays. I don't know, but
yeah,
is that where we are now?
Yeah, I think so. Because I don't think he's got it in him, or he was really, really still hurt, and then next year he's going to come back and get better, because that dude invests a lot of money into his body, into keeping it right. So that could be a case scenario that he was just really hurt this year. But I was thinking he was going to take over these last 2 games. I've always looked at LeBron James on the court as the type of player that can get you 2 wins in a playoff series. And he had the opportunity to do that. He had the opportunity to put the Lakers on his back and go out. And I know he kind of started to do that late in game 6, but he had the opportunity. He didn't, he was passing the ball. These guys aren't making shots. Why do you keep passing them the freaking ball? Take the ball in the lane. Go to you're going to go to the free throw line. Do you see when he gets fouled? It doesn't matter if it's on the floor or if he's in the act of shooting. He runs to the free throw line, and the refs are like, "Okay, yeah, I guess you were shooting," and they give him the ball, and then he shoots free throws. So you're going to get free throws. So that's just what boggled my mind was he wasn't even aggressive like the normal LeBron James was.
And you could see that kind of explosiveness not be there because of, I guess, the ankle injury or something like that. So we'll see what the offseason has in store for the LA Lakers. Let's finish off our fire list, and this will be the Tennessee Titans landing one of the coveted, I guess, names in this offseason, Matt. Like we're still on you know who watch, and now we're kind of we're on this watch still.
You done messed up, Aaron.
But now we're done with the Julio watch, Matt, as he has been traded to the Tennessee Titans of all places. And you kind of match him up with A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill's going to have fun with that. I mean, does Tennessee go from a subpar contender? Let's face it, they've made the playoffs last couple of seasons. Derrick Henry MVP type performances in the last couple of seasons as well. Ryan Tannehill's, I guess, revived his career in Tennessee. Now you match up Julio Jones with A.J. Brown. I mean, this has got to be bumping up Tennessee to maybe they were in the AFC Championship, but does this make them a perennial Super Bowl contender now?
Man, if he's healthy, because he's got a lot of football in him. I feel like he's got some good football in him still. But if he's healthy, yeah, I mean, it makes Derrick Henry that much better too. That dude running deep balls, and Julio Jones even came out and said something that he wanted to go to a team that can throw the deep ball. Well, you put those two guys on the outside, oh my God. Julio Jones just doing this, just running straight down the field, and Tannehill throwing it up to him. I don't know if Tannehill's got that deep bomb gun, that arm that throws, but I guess he's what he wanted, because that's where he's going. And AJ Brown's been recruiting him for a while, trying to get him to go there. And we even talked about last week that the Titans could be one of those teams, but I didn't know for sure, just because I look at the weather. The dude has played in a dome. I mean, for the majority of his career, he's a home team in the dome. And then, but yeah, it just makes that offense of the Tennessee Titans, because they still got a good squad of receivers there too. Who else is that other dude that they have that's over there? I keep skipping my mind right now. I know the Janu Smith left, but there's another guy over there too.
Well, I'll look it up. When we got some picture text messages from, the Arizona Cardinals, the New England Patriots, some other teams that were kind of in the mix, kind of the teams thrown out there. We got some picture text from those teams. Some pretty pissed off faces there, Matt.
Yep.
And there's just that sense. And here's one more. There we go. So we just got that sense that he was. I mean, Tennessee. I guess. Let's face it, man. They only give up a second-round pick. That's what's only been reported. Right. I mean, a second-round pick for Julio Jones, injured or not, man, that's a steal.
100%. 100% it is. And that's where you get like, you're like, oh man, does that what it just makes that team that much more powerful on offense. And even when I was looking at who could where he could potentially go, you saw Big Ben there. I thought that could be an option. I thought that could potentially be a place where he could end up. So it really makes that Tennessee Titan team really, really curious. I think Derrick Henry, man, even if this sounds crazy saying this, but this could make him more valuable and more deadlier. And even if it doesn't in the first sense, like it's going to wear down a defense. Derrick Henry's a type of running back that wears down a defense, and he puts the pressure on that defense. And you get late into the third quarter, fourth quarter, and then there goes, you still got to cover Julio Jones and AJ Brown. Oh, and then here comes Derrick Henry starting to come on. That offense can put teams away, can grind you out and then put you away.
It's funny because on the NFL's official site, they still have Janu Smith as their tight end. But yeah, AJ Brown, Matt, Adam Humphries, Corey Davis are the other. The other wide receivers. Now I don't know who Julio Jones bumps to get that number. I mean, do you still have AJ Brown as number? I mean, AJ Brown, Julio Jones are a 1A, 1B type situation. So I don't know who he bumps off that wide receiver pedestal.
It's probably Davis, because Humphries is more of a slot guy. So it's probably going to be Davis that he might move off, or Davis might move to the slot too. I don't know, but I know Humphries is that slot guy for sure. That Wes Welker type of, Julian Edelman type of situation. But I'm curious but Davis is a hell of a third receiver option too. I mean, that's deadly. It's deadly.
Well, you know who's always happy about any kind of news and is always blessed, Matt? There you go.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. All right, we're going to take our final time out. When we return, if I can talk right, we will get into our NBA playoff matchups and predictions, and we'll get into NHL predictions as well right here on the Wheelhouse Elevation 5280sports.com.
Away from your computer? No problem. Take Elevation 5280 Sports everywhere you go. iPhone and Android users, download the F-Stream or TuneIn apps, all free. Once you do that, plug in the custom link posted on elevation5280sports.com, then you're good to go on the go. Elevation5280sports.com. Careful, it's tough to breathe up here.
Hey, Michael Spillane here, and if you're like me, you love sports, which is probably why you're listening to this awesome station. Well, since you're online, head on over to FanDuel.com, the leader in one-day fantasy sports. What's great about FanDuel is you can pick a different team every day, so you're not stuck with the same team all season long, dealing with injuries, adding and dropping players. There's no season-long commitment. You also don't have to wait until the end of the season to collect your money. Nope, you get it all at the end of the day. Now that baseball is in full swing, there are tons of different leagues you can join, 50-50 leagues to head-to-head ones, and also different kinds of tournaments. Also, join some NBA and NHL playoff leagues as well. Once again, join FanDuel today, the leader in one-day fantasy sports.
Ranger Station.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting in the forest. 1 second, I'm having a smoke. Next thing I know, I'm face-to-face with Smokey Bear. Wow. And he told me it only takes one spark to start a wildfire.
Did you know 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans?
I had no idea.
That's why Smokey's famous and you're not. Get your Smokey on. If you see someone in danger of starting a wildfire, step in and make a difference. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
There's nothing better than sitting in your local barbershop talking sports with everyone.
We understood the sacrifices that we were making. We understood the condition and the landscape that we were going into, along with the bubble.
Sorry, not with LeBron James. Join Daryl Lane with special guest host Kenny Sem from 24/7 Sports on Barbershop Sports Talk every Monday evening at 8 Mountain. It'll be like you're back in the chair getting a fresh cut.
One of these teams, Kenny, is going to be out of the playoffs. We are going to have, Kenny, a 10-win team not in the playoffs. When I tell you that, how crazy is that team? That we could have a team with 10 wins not make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It's really sad for a team that's going to have 10 wins and on the outside looking in. You know, the NFL went about it having an additional team this year qualify for the playoffs at 7 teams per conference. It's supposed to be easier to make the playoffs, and this year it looks like it's harder to make the playoffs, especially in the AFC. I mean, realistically, looking at the schedule, be talking about a team being left out with 11 wins next week. 11.
Once again, catch Barbershop Sports Talk every Monday evening at 8. Only on elevation5280sports.com. Careful, it's tough to breathe up here. This segment on Elevation 5280 Sports is brought to you by Wix.com. Creating a website has never been easier.
Hit it.
And welcome back into the Wheelhouse here, Elevation5280sports.com. Final segment with you as we get more into these NBA and NHL playoffs, Matt. They're obviously in second round in both sports, as we will have a couple of games every night now going forward. And I want to recap really quickly here because I wrote it all down. So the first round wins that you got right, Matt, and we're not going to go by how many games they won it in, just the overall winner. You said Phoenix in 6. That was right on, Matt. I had the Lakers in 7. So both got that wrong. Atlanta in 6, Matt. We both picked Atlanta in 6. They won it in 5. So we both got that right. We both picked Memphis in 7. So obviously we both did not even care about Utah at that point. You picked Milwaukee in 4. That was dead on. I picked Milwaukee in 5. They won in 4. So we kind of both right there. You said Denver in 6. You got that right. I picked Denver in 7. So we both got at least a pick right. And we both picked Brooklyn in 5. We got that right. And we both picked Philadelphia in 6. And we both got that right. And I don't even remember the Philadelphia and Brooklyn. I don't even remember how many games those went to. I think they were 5 each, but I'm not sure. And game 7 right now between the LA Clippers and Dallas Mavericks is going on. So we both picked Dallas, but you picked them in 5. I picked them in 6. So we'll get the number wrong, but hopefully we get the team right as they are battling. And it's crazy to think, Matt, that a home team has not won a game in that series.
That's mind-boggling. That's crazy. I don't know what that leads to is that those teams aren't very good teams. They can't win on their home floor, or there's no defense, or what? Because I'm watching these games, and it's just crazy, man. Luka's the next LeBron James. Like, he plays the way LeBron James plays. Everything from how he gets to the rim and is aggressive to the whining. He might whine more than LeBron James. Luka Doncic is cut from that LeBron James mold 100%. And I haven't looked at the score lately, so
you don't want to know
if they check it. But I'm rooting, like I said, deep down inside, I'm rooting for them to lose. It looks like they're up 100-85 right now. The Clippers are.
Yeah, bad news.
Yeah, that's bad news. So I guess we'll have one team in LA. So the NBA will be happy because there'll be one LA team that survived.
There you go. But will they make it even more further than that? Because they will play Utah in the next round. So let's dive into the second round matchup. Obviously, some of these teams have already played. We saw Philadelphia take a 1-0 lead over Atlanta earlier today, Matt. But who are you picking in that series?
I want to go. Oh man, see, I got torn because this is heart and head here. Joel Embiid got my heartstrings because I'm a big wrestling mark, and he did the DX crotch chop when he was on the ground. Well, today before the game, Triple H, who is a DX member, was banging the horn that they do, was ringing the horn. He did it a couple times with Embiid, and they were wearing DX shirts. So right there, it tugged my heartstrings, and I'm like, I want Philly to win this game, Philly in 6. But my mind wants to root for Trae Young because of what he did and what he did today. So I'm going to go with Atlanta in 7. I think this game goes 7, or this series goes 7. I'm going to say Atlanta in 7.
That is crazy because as you were talking, Matt, I circled Atlanta and put 7 for my pick.
So we're right there, man. We're right there. And if Embiid gets hurt or he's not as healthy as, because he's got like a partial meniscus tear or something like that, that can be bad for a dude that big. If he's out, then Atlanta wins like even sooner than that, probably.
All right, let's move on. We saw Brooklyn take down the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday. So Milwaukee has a 1-0, or Brooklyn has a 1-0 lead right now in that Eastern Conference semis. James Harden left that game early. He's not going to be available tomorrow night for game 2, Matt. Does this give Milwaukee a boost knowing that James Harden, who I guess, honestly, you can kind of – we talked about LeBron moving to facilitator. That's what James Harden has been. He's – like I said, Steve Nash has kind of done a good job of putting egos aside and stuff like that. James Harden, since forcing his way out of Houston and going to Brooklyn where, I mean, let's face it, he's more or less put his tail between his legs and kind of let the alphas do their job and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but he's not going to be available for at least game 2. Who knows how longer with a thigh or hamstring, whatever it is. So does that give Milwaukee now an edge to perhaps tie this series or win this series if he's out for an extended period of time?
Man, I want to say yes, it does. And I was even looking at picking Milwaukee, even if Harden was out there, just because it's that old deal with, you can play these games and you can't just wait till the playoffs to turn it up, even though Harden was healthy for all those 5 games that they played in that first round. So, but it's still that mindset. You got to get ready, got to get up and go. And just, I'm looking at Brooklyn, and we've talked about this before, how if they win the championship, like, what does that even mean? It's a bot bought and paid trophy. You bought and paid for it because you got all these guys in there. But Brooklyn's team surrounding those guys is actually pretty good. And I would have. I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, but I would have loved to see the surrounding team, how that would look. So, you got Joe Harris there and those guys, and I want to take Milwaukee, but Giannis can't hit free throws. He missed 2 free throws in a row yesterday. I've seen him miss other free throws in the past, and it's just you got to make free throws in the playoffs. And so I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna go with Milwaukee in 7. I want Milwaukee to win, and just because it's like it'd be nasty and sour to see these bought and paid for championships. So I'm gonna go Milwaukee in 7.
All right, and as again you were during your talking, Matt, I picked I'm gonna go Brooklyn in 6.
Okay.
I think there's just too much firepower for the Bucks to have to deal with. All right, Matt, moving on here locally in Denver, just because we don't know who Utah's playing yet, although as it stands right now, they'll most likely be playing the Clippers, but we still got a quarter to wait for that. Denver and Phoenix, Matt, and I already went and made my pick. I'm picking Denver in 6. I think, just what they've gone through this season, losing Jamal Murray, going 17-4 in those 20-plus games. Jamal Murray was out, bringing Aaron Gordon in, and almost an undefeated. I think they've only lost 7 games with Aaron Gordon since the trade deadline. The best record in the NBA since the trade deadline and the All-Star game, by the way, is the Denver Nuggets. Phoenix, who had I don't want to say easy series against the Lakers, bouncing them in 6. Chris Paul's not getting any younger. Speaking of facilitating, Chris Paul has become that. He only averaged 8 points in that series 8 points a game, but you got to watch out for Devin Booker. I think this is a good matchup for the Nuggets, man. I think although Denver took care of Portland in 6, I think Phoenix is a better matchup because Portland, their whole team is shooters, Matt. And you saw the Nuggets really didn't have any defense for it besides just waiting until Portland missed. And I think Phoenix, you only really have to worry about Devin Booker as a pure shooter. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you don't have to worry about anybody else, so don't take that the wrong way. But as opposed to Portland, Phoenix only has 1 or 2, pure shooters, and Devin Booker is one of them. So if you take out him, DeAndre Ayton, sure, he's a nice player, but I think you can kind of what they did with Damian Lillard, Matt, let him do his thing. And Damian Lillard had 55 points and they lost the game because no one else could do anything.
Right. You hit the nail on the head. We already beat the second best backcourt in the Western Conference, and I think the best backcourt in the Western Conference is Steph and a healthy Klay Thompson. But the second best is you could look at it and CJ McCullough and Dame Lillard. Dame Lillard's not taking anything away from Devin Booker. Devin Booker's an all-star. He got snubbed in the all-star game this year. He should have been he's an all-star. That dude's something else. He is on another level, and he has stepped up big time in that first series because they didn't fear LeBron James and the Lakers, but they got to play Nikola Jokic. And like you mentioned, Ayton's a good player, but he's an offensive player. He's more offensive minded. There's really nobody that they can run at Jokic. Kaminsky's not. Frank the Tank's going to come in, probably foul out like Nurkic. You're not going to have the Crowder. You're not going to have. You could run Crowder at him, and because he's a bigger body. But Ayton's not going to really do anything. He might block some of Joker's shots. He gets some rebounds. But as far as the defensive end, there's nobody that I can see on that Phoenix Suns team stopping Nikola Jokic. And with us already going through one of the best backcourts, and like you said, we already did that. We already done play this game. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I would even say more of like 5 games. I would even say a sweep, just because I don't know what they're going to do with Nikola Jokic. And then you look at, we might have Will Barton back. Dozier might be back. So there's just, I think Phoenix his time, the sun has run out. I don't know if you can say that, but I'm going to go with you. I think it's Phoenix or Denver in 6, but I wouldn't even be shocked if it's 5 or even a sweep.
All right. So we both have Denver in 6 for the Denver and Phoenix matchup coming up tomorrow. And again, we're waiting for Utah to play either the Clippers or the Dallas Mavericks, but we still don't know yet, although it's looking as time goes on, Matt, that the Clippers are taking care of business. They're sick of this nonsense. They went through this with Denver last season, having a 3-1 lead, then getting bounced as they are up by 21 points right now. So not looking good with about under 9 minutes to go in that fourth quarter, Matt. So it looks like the Clippers. I'm going to write down the Clippers, Matt, against
I agree.
Against Utah. Again, just like Dallas, I'm hoping that Utah wins this series. I think LA still pissed from last season and what transpired against the Nuggets. Playoff P. I don't know why people call him that, but Kawhi went off last game, 42 points on the road in Dallas, and finally a home team's going to win a game in this series. So I think the Clippers are too pissed and too mad about what happened. Even this series, I think they expected to kind of skate through this series against the Dallas Mavericks. So I'm going to pick the Clippers in 6 against the Utah Jazz.
I think you're right. I would go 7. I think that series would go 7. I think Donovan Mitchell's going to play you got Bogdanovich, Gobert. Because my biggest thing, I'm going to go with the Jazz in 7. But my biggest thing here, and I want to ask you this too, is there anybody in this that's left that can stop Nikola Jokic? If the Nuggets just do what they do, don't turn the ball over, and let Michael Porter keep shooting those threes. Don't let Millsap, and you don't need to every now and then. Okay. But like there was a stretch where they were just shooting and it was like, okay, but if you just run through Nikola Jokic, there isn't a big that's going to make Nikola Jokic play defense, number one, to get in foul trouble like Yusuf Nurkic did. But I don't think there's anybody that can stop Joker that's left in the Western Conference. Do you see anybody that can stop him?
Well, I was going to say that too when I was talking about Denver and Phoenix, how they only really have to focus on Devin Booker. On the same token, Phoenix does not have a big dude like you mentioned to stop Joker. There's just nobody on that team physically built to stop Nikola Jokic. And again, you could throw DeAndre Ayton at him. You could throw Crowder at him. I still think Joker has the upper hand in both of those matchups.
Right. And then we've seen Joker destroy Gobert. Like we've seen what Joker does to Rudy Gobert. So like it's crazy to me that in the Western Conference, and this is something too that I heard brought up we'll go back to Portland, Dame Lillard. I heard that there could be some potential talks or trades with Karl Anthony Towns. Can you imagine if Portland got Karl Anthony Towns? Now that's nasty because Karl Anthony Towns gives Joker trouble.
Yeah, well, now look forward to that if that were to happen, if Portland were to get, Cat. But, I mean, let's face it, Minnesota. Speaking of Minnesota, did you hear that A-Rod wants to move them to Seattle?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
He's like, screw it, we're leaving. I'm sure Kevin Garnett will be happy about that.
Yeah, Kevin Garnett.
Maybe that's what he's talking about. He probably got whiffs of A-Rod wanting to move the Timberwolves to Seattle, and that's why Kevin Garnett in his Hall of Fame speech said, we're going to build Minneapolis from the ground up. Maybe that's the plan.
That could be it.
Heard it here first. Team? Hot take.
Right. I like that. I'm down with that because that's reading the tea leaves. That's looking into what's because maybe that's what goes back, bring the Supersonics back. That would be awesome. But yeah, that's something that's pretty freaking cool. That if KG wanted to do that, that'd be something that's awesome.
I'm going to run through these NHL matchups here really quickly. We're not going to get too far into them just because of time purposes. But I'm going to say the matchup. You're just going to give me maybe a quick synopsis, but you're picking how many games, Matt. Right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning, defending champions, are up 3-1 already on the Carolina Hurricanes. Does Tampa Bay finish them off?
Yes, they do.
So in 5 games?
5 games.
All right. Tampa Bay in 5 games. I have that as well. I for some reason, I forgot about Tampa Bay. They just won it last season. All right. Boston and the New York Islanders are tied at 2 games apiece, Matt.
Man, I want to go Bruins there. Bruins in 7.
And I just circled New York. For some reason, I was on the Islanders train last season, and they fell short. So I picked Islanders in 6. You have Boston in 7. All right. The Montreal Canadiens have a 2-0 lead over the Winnipeg Jets.
Because I haven't watched the Jets or the Canadiens, but I remember in the Mighty Ducks there was the team, the Jets, and they got the measles. So I'm going to go with the Jets in 7.
All right, that's a pretty bold pick, I guess. But I picked Montreal. I think I was going to say Minnesota because I have WIN. I'm going to give Winnipeg 1 win, maybe, and they just lost the first 2 at home. So I'm picking Montreal in 5. All right, Matt. And that's the winner. Play will go on play Vegas, Colorado. Speaking of Vegas, Colorado, I already made my prediction, Matt. I'm picking the Avalanche in 7. This is just too good of a series to be cut short by either of these teams. Obviously, the Avs were going smooth sailing through these playoffs, Matt, 6-0 until last game, which they had a lead and then saw it disappear. Very evenly matched game besides shots on goal. But as it stands right now, the Avs have a 2-1 game lead over Vegas.
I'm right there with you. I got the Avs in 7, and I want to say 6 because the biggest thing I always get stuck on is goaltenders. Grubauer was freaking a stone wall in that game 3 or game 2. Game 2 it was a stone wall because Avalanche didn't play good in that game.
Yeah, they had no business winning that game.
Yeah, they didn't. Grubauer, that's like playoff. That's like, oh, that's what goaltenders do in the playoffs. They win you freaking games like that. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I got the Avs in 7. Let's hope that they can, because I've got a chance. I didn't watch that one game, but I got a chance to go rewatch some games, and I'm going to watch tonight's game. So I'm hoping that they look a hell of a lot better because they've not looked good ever since that game 1.
There you go. And I'm going to throw a plug out there. If you're local here in Denver, I will be behind the glass for the Avs post-game show on Sports Radio 104.3 The Fan here in Denver with the infamous Sandal Clough. So you do not want to miss that, him yelling at people.
Don't get him excited. Do not get that guy excited.
There you go. That's going to do it for us here, though, on the Wheelhouse. Thank you for watching, listening, however you were involved in the show. Don't forget another plug here. Catch my Matt and mine podcast on Belly Up Sports. We will hopefully be able to throw that out tomorrow. And so you don't want to miss Chalk It Up on Belly Up Sports as well. But we will talk to you next week. For Matt Mascarenas, I am Michael Spill, and have a good one.